We could have homes on separate coasts, go dive in Greece with squids. Could have been so bleeping rich, but instead we had kids. They won't smile for a photo, they won't eat the food we choose. That's why we're heading to the Parents' Lounge to drown ourselves in booze. Every day we're more exhausted, we haven't slept in years. They hit me in the nuts so bad, my eyes filled up with tears. And yes, we'd like to fake our death and go off of the grids, but the truth is we are softies and we truly love our kids. So join us every Tuesday night to laugh at all our pain. Evening in the Parents' Lounge is the cure to staying sane.
And there we go. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Parents' Lounge. I'm your host, Jason Gowan, and with me, as always, is the lovely and delightful Jamie. Kate Mulligan.
Oh, you got me.
I missed you. I missed you because I saw you for like 4 days straight in real life, and then you went radio silent.
I know. We got home. We went camping this past weekend, and by
Why?
camping, I mean we went and stayed in. I gotta tell you, I love a cabin. I love the wilderness. I don't love no cell service. Makes me nervous. Narcolepsy.
Which is weird because you do not answer your phone ever anyway.
Here's the irony of it all. You're absolutely right. I love no cell service and that no one can get in touch with me, but I do not like James had croup like the night we got there, and I was like, if he stops breathing, who do we call? Because we can't call. So we have to get into the car, drive down the mountain until we got to service. At that point, I don't know. Somebody who goes camping, explain to me. Somebody who goes camping with kids, explain to me how you do it if you go to a place where there's no service.
I don't. Well, first of all, my children won't. If we get them out into the wilderness, they will go completely feral, and we'll never get them.
I know. Back. Honestly, that might be the way to go. Just return them to their ancestors. Don't you think?
Well, I think Child Protective Services would have something to say about it.
Well, they need to prove it. They need to prove that you had children. As a parent, it can't be nerve-wracking. Okay, yeah. It's funny. I won't go somewhere without service. Okay, so Narcolepsy 27, I guess I'm not alone. I won't go
somewhere without air conditioning.
So here's the deal. This place it was north of Santa Barbara. It's super close. I mean, it's like a 2-hour drive for us. And there is air conditioning and there is heat in these cabins.
Oh.
So for me to call it camping is like doing a disservice to people.
You were glamping. Isn't it glamping?
Maybe. But it was a rustic cabin. It wasn't like, there's like an air conditioner unit in the window. It was a 1-bedroom. We had to pull out the couch but it was still, I don't know. It made me a little uneasy tonight.
Well, you left me with Jamie last week.
I know. Well, it was Dickie's birthday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. How is the Dickster?
He's doing great. He's in his element. He's getting ready to run a show. So
that's very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
We have a very exciting guest tonight.
I know. I'm so excited about this. I have nothing but questions for him.
Well, he is good at that sort of thing. He's a buddy of mine. He was here once before when we did a live show at Gettysburg. He was one of them that did the show with us. Him and Dave Schrader and Jeff Belanger. Hey, Joe.
Joey.
And he is an absolute delight. He just happens to be in the number 6 show in all the world in Netflix this week, 28 Days Haunted. Yeah.
Shush.
No, we have a
What's number
legitimate
one?
star.
What's number
Also,
one in Netflix?
I have no idea. I only know as far as 6.
Okay. So you only know 6. You don't even know as far as 6. You just know 6.
Yes, it is correct. I only know 6.
I love it.
My buddy, Mr. Shane Pittman. Hey, sir.
Hey,
Nice,
how are
it is.
y'all? Thank
Put
y'all
it-
for having me.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh, Shane! It's a Shane sandwich and Parents Lounge bread. Parents Lounge
That's
bread.
right.
There we
I
have
am loving it.
Dahmer.
I am
There you go.
loving it.
Dahmer's number 1.
Hey, Shane, why do you think your show's less successful than Dahmer?
I don't know. I've been asking the same question, but we'll get new ratings next week, so we'll see.
Oh my God! No, congratulations. That is massive.
Yeah, it's very humbling. I will tell you that. It's very humbling. It's a mixed bag. There's a lot of people that are hating on it. There's a lot of people that love it. But that comes with it, with the exposure of being on a show like Netflix.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm super appreciative of everybody that's tuning in and binge watching it, even if it is to laugh and they think it's funny and all of that. Hey, they're still watching it, and I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, Joey B has a really good suggestion. You should start eating the ghosts.
I should start.
Get those ratings up.
Already looks like I kind of am.
Yeah.
So.
I've had several. I've been hitting the blueberry pretty hard, actually.
Yeah, I'm storing them in the cheeks right now.
Oh, stop you two. Shane, wait. So how did you two? Where do you two know each other from? Give us the backstory.
We met at Gettysburg, actually. That was the first time I had met you. It was at the event. Yeah, I know. I mean, through all things, I happen to meet people through Dave Schrader.
Of course,
that's it. Yeah, that's it. I know that Jamie did Haunted Salem Live with Dave.
He was the host. Yeah,
right, and that's where I was first kind of introduced to Jamie, and then inadvertently, then we met Jason, and then we did the little podcast, and it was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's God. Gettysburg has got to be. Is there any location spookier than Gettysburg?
Yeah, but I think there's different levels to it, right? So there's different kinds of spooky. I think Gettysburg is more of like the historical. What happened there, so it pulls at the heartstrings, and a lot of the hauntings that surround all of that is a little bit different. And then you have places on the other end of the spectrum where it's just flat out creepy, and so I think it's just different vibes depending on where you go.
Oh, were you always like when you were a kid? So my perception is that kids. Who was it? Was it you, Jason? Somebody told us about their kid going past a cemetery and being like, "Oh, grandma, I saw grandma." Like just being like, "I was like, who are you waving? Who was it? Was it Derek Hayes?
I think it was Schrader, actually,
or was it Derek Hayes? It might have been Derek Hayes.
Somebody on the show told us that.
Anyway, when you were a kid, did you feel like this was of interest to you, or did you feel like you tapped into stuff, or not really?
Yeah. So whenever I was 6 years old, that was my first paranormal experience. I had a vision. It was a very profound one. It'd take me forever to explain it, but I told my mother about it. It ended up being validated. The vision was validated. I didn't really think much of it. And then as I got older, I was starting to have some weird stuff happen to me in my teenage years, paranormal nature, not just weird stuff that happens as a teenager. But then all of that, I remember whenever I was 8 years old, I was in class, and a teacher actually called a parent-teacher conference and called my mom and my dad in and was like, "Hey, I think your son has some level of ESP, and he needs to be extrasensory perception, and he needs to be tested for it." And I grew up in a religious household, so my parents and everything just prayed that away, right? They're like, "No, that's demonic. It's evil. It's bad." And I kind of pushed that from my mind. And then this whole experience with 28 Days Haunted kind of reinvigorated that whole experience and brought it full circle. It's really amazing stuff. So,
oh my God.
Yeah.
So growing up the way you did, but then it wasn't 28. You pursued it in between that experience happening, right. But you're just saying this recently, the 28 Days Haunted reached sort of like brought that stuff that happened to the surface.
Yeah, it was a whole culmination of everything that kind of brought it all back up again. Yeah.
Whoa. And are your parents still with us today?
My dad is
Earthside?
not.
Oh, your
My
dad's
dad
not,
is
okay.
not, but my mom is.
So what does she think about your profession?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean I mean for where you came from to now, that's a big jump.
Yeah, she thinks I'm demonic. No,
She
I'm just kidding.
does?
No.
Oh, I was like, oh no, I'm sorry.
She'll call me up all the time and she'll be like, well, Shane, you know, I support you and I love you, but you know, this certain thing you did on the show, I don't approve of, and you know that I raised you better than that. And so
Well,
I'll
my
still
mom
get
says the same thing about this show for me.
yeah, that's funny. That's funny. So
There's a
you can
reason.
relate then. That's
Yeah.
good.
Oh, so much, yes.
But yeah, she would be like, you know, I don't agree with it, but you know, she's super supportive and I love her. I mean, she's been the biggest cheerleader. But
love
she's
that.
very cautious with this whole genre that I'm in right now because, you know, she raised me to be different, and I kind of rebelled and did the opposite. So
Ugh. Do you have kids?
yeah, I have
That's
4.
why he's here.
Yeah,
You have 4 kids?
I have 4 kids. Yeah.
So do any of them are you sort of like watching them like did they
you know,
any of them have your gifts?
well, you kind of have like when they were younger, they did, which is really super weird because thinking back on it now compared to what happened to me recently, well, you know, a year ago, again, it comes back full circle. But I remember my daughter had an experience where she saw a woman in a red dress at the foot of her bed and was telling her to shush, like shushing her. And she was terrified. I believe she was like 8 or 9 years old when that happened, maybe younger than that. And so, yeah, they had similar experiences, but I kind of just shrugged it off as a, well, you know, I hunt ghosts for a living. So it's probably just some residual stuff that's happening that she's just dealing with.
And there's no, when your daughter's like, there's a woman in a red dress shushing me, standing at the end of my bed. You're just like, oh, sorry, work came home with me. Like, what are you doing?
No. So it really freaked my wife out because, you know, that's her number one fear is anything negatively affecting my kids, you know, especially with what I do. So, I mean, we're very cautious of that, and we're kind of cognizant of all of that. But it really, really terrified my wife because she's like, you know, I don't want this stuff dealing with my kids. I don't want them to have to deal with any of this, you know.
That's actually why my wife retired me from actively looking for stuff, because I did bring something home accidentally.
Oh, man.
And it escalated. Did your wife believe in the paranormal when you guys got together?
Yeah, but she was hyper focused on, because she grew up in a religious household too. So she was hyper focused on this stuff is real, but it's not good. There's nothing good about it. It's bad, and you need to stay away from it. And she's come around a little bit, but she still has those lingering beliefs, you know, which we all do to a degree. We all have beliefs that it's kind of hard to let go of because we were raised a certain way and kind of programmed to be certain ways from an early age. So yeah, I mean, she's come around a little bit. She'll go to some of the events that I go to, and she'll be supportive in that aspect, but she's still very cautious, which I completely understand because of our kids, you know.
How old are your kids now?
I have a 19-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 9-year-old.
Oh man,
Yeah.
either the 19-year-old or the 18-year-old was an oops.
Yeah, started young and ended young. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Dude, I gotta tell you, if I was your wife, I'd be like, I'll believe in the paranormal if these checks clear. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I cash these checks. All right, it's
like,
real.
Look, I'll deal with you going conjuring demons as long as that check clears.
As long as that check clears. This better not be ghost pay. That's all I gotta say about that.
For sure.
Oh man,
I better be able to see that check.
Yeah, that's right. That's so. I mean, so what do you? I have so many questions. So your daughter has a vision, not a vision.
Mhm.
Something appears to your daughter. She's not imagining it. Something appears to
Right.
your daughter. She's 8. She's now
Mhm.
either 19, 18, 15, or 9. Who knows which
She's
one she is?
She's 18. Yeah.
She's 18. Okay. So
Yeah.
she's 18 now. Do you
Mhm.
feel like, uh-oh, this thing is going to harm my daughter? What do you do? Like, what in your line of work do you, or are you sort of confident, like, they're crossing
Well,
over?
well, I've always I preach about this all the time, but I really believe intention's important, and I believe how you go into things and how you approach different things, even if it's with the paranormal, makes all the difference in the world. So if you're looking for the negative aspect of things, you're 9 times out of 10 going to get the negative aspect. If you go into something looking for the positive, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get that result. So, so far so good. Knock on wood, we've been good. I don't really feel anything has attached itself to my family or myself. But I think it's all about intention. It's all about what you're wanting out of a certain circumstance or situation. So
I tried that. I tried that with raising children, but it has not worked out for me. I set
yeah,
the
it's a
intent that
little
I
bit
wanted them to be good, and they
that's
are
a little
not.
bit different. We're talking about the paranormal here, man. We're
Yeah.
not
Oh
talking
well,
about
I mean, one of my kids is called the Dark Lord, so I
oh
do
god.
believe that you wait. Yeah, you met him.
Yeah, I
I
did.
also have met him, and there's nothing dark about him.
He's a sweet kid, man.
Thank
Okay.
There's
you.
nothing wrong with him.
Okay.
Maybe
All
he's
right.
putting on a show, but he's a sweet
Do you
kid.
remember when they wheeled him in that day? Because and he just had this look like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs when they wheeled him
Oh
in.
no.
That's how he got the name. That was the day he got the name.
Oh my
No
god.
way.
Dave Schrader was the one who originally called him the Dark Lord. That's where the
Oh
name
man.
came from. Because
Hey,
my wife wheeled him in his stroller, and he just was like, he's like planing, and he just had this straight look on his face,
Like a
like,
mask over his face.
Dave is so good at giving names for people. That whole hashtag poor Shane that goes around everywhere on social media when it comes to me and people watching the Holzer Files is all Dave's fault. All of it's Dave's fault.
this show
Like,
was Dave's fault.
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, yeah. He was like, "Hey,
It's true.
you want to join in?"
So an interesting point for me, Shane, when your kids were growing up, did you ever, obviously sometimes kids do imagine things. Did you ever have situations where you were like tried to find if it was really actually a paranormal thing or an imaginary kind of friend or whatever? Did you have experiences
Yeah.
with that?
Well, with my son, who's 15 now, he was shit. How old was he? Excuse my language, by the way.
Oh.
You're fine.
He
Kids
was
on the show.
he was 6 years old, I believe. He kept saying that he was seeing this man called his name was Jack Woden, and I didn't know if the W and the L's got mixed up. I didn't
Oh,
know what
right.
it was,
Right.
but he said it had the man had like paint on his face, kind of like like a clown, and kept
Fun.
saying
Fun. Well,
kept
we're
saying
moving
that
now. That's what's happening
yeah
now. We're moving.
kept saying
We don't
that
live here anymore.
he was terrified, and his story was consistent. So it was like one of the things that I was always concerned about. It's like, okay, is this just his imagination? But he would be crying and telling us a story, and night after night would be telling us the same story. It didn't deviate at all. So I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, because I know my little vision, my thing that I had when I was 6. I'm 38 now, and I still remember every vivid detail of it. So it's like if the story is not deviating at all, is there something to this? And I'm very careful with that, to believe them first, and then deduct from there. I'd rather believe my kids and what they're telling me, and make it to where they want to tell me things, than just dismiss it as it's an imaginary friend or whatever. If later on we find that out, then it's like, hey, look, it's cool to have an imagination, blah blah blah, and I would have that conversation. But I'd rather believe them first, and validate what they're feeling, even if it is something they're dealing with internally, before just dismissing it.
I really like that because I think sometimes, actually, with more parents than not, I think that they do dismiss first, and it does sort of drive some sort of, not a wedge per se, but it does start to dissipate the trust to some degree.
Yeah, well, and it closes them off. What if they are having legitimate experiences, and because we keep dismissing it and saying it's not real, maybe that's why a lot of us are blocked off, and we can't see more than what this physical plane is. Because I truly believe I've witnessed some weird stuff that I know that there's more than this. I mean, I know there's more. What it is exactly, I don't know, but I do know there's more. And I think maybe we're closed off with it more because of society, like how things are, and you're told that you're crazy if you see certain things. And there are people that have some mental issues, and it's okay to be sensitive to that. But I do believe that there's more out there to be explored, and just to completely dismiss it, I think it's the wrong move.
Can I just real quick? Can we go back to the Jack Woden? So what did we find out? Like, how does
Yeah.
the Jack Woden
Yeah.
story end?
So-
Because I'm a
so-
little scared.
Yeah,
So
sorry, Kate.
So he would say that he would be crouching down in the corner of his room and just having this weird ass smile on his face. And so for a while we didn't know what to do. We were just listening. We would sit with him in his bed in his room and just try to comfort him. And then after a while it went away. I don't know what it was, but he just stopped talking about it. That was kind of the culmination of that. I didn't really know what else to do other than to listen to him and reassure him that we were there for him and that we were going to protect him and he was going to be okay.
At 15, does he remember this?
No.
Isn't that something?
Now, did anything else happen in the house at the time besides like with him, or was there anything else going on?
Well, my daughter had it was around the same time where she had the vision of the woman in the red dress, or like she woke up and saw her shushing like this. Then we found out later that the previous owner had passed in the house. It was over 100-year-old farmhouse. There was a cemetery behind it.
You guys
so
are
it could have been
asking
anything.
for every time you move into a 100-year-old farmhouse, you are begging for it. This is how every horror story starts.
Listen, you're right, but listen. We are from the deep South, okay? So there's a lot of old houses like that.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where it was a beautiful house. We loved it, and we moved in. But
I'm sure it was, but it was filled with spirits.
Yeah, I know. Wish we would have known that beforehand, but
have you looked up to the 1,000 questions, but first is, do you ever bring any of your, did you bring any of your equipment? Like, I don't know, any of the equipment that you use on the shows, like, do you bring any of that into the house?
Yeah, I did. So I'd always wonder if that had something to do with it, because again, like I said, intention, whenever you're using this equipment in other places, your whole intent is to communicate with the other side, right?
Right.
So if you're bringing it into the house, are you bringing other stuff in there, or are you bringing, is it those things kind of like beacons, like, oh, that's used, okay, I can communicate this way, or I can try to do that, I don't know. Sounds crazy when you talk about it, but yeah, I mean, it very well could have been something. I know that I had, I don't like to investigate in my own house or like do anything like that, because I do believe that you can open things up, and to where something or someone may want to speak. And I don't think, if you have kids, if you're not wanting that interaction and that communication, you need to just leave it, go do it somewhere else. Don't do it in the house,
And then how do you, what's the research process? So my meaning, he says Jack Woden, how do you find out if there was, you just Google your address? Or the reason I ask this is because my parents had their best friends for a while. So right out of high school, a bunch of them all started having kids together, right? Because it was the 60s, whatever.
Yeah.
My parents, or 70s, it was the early 70s. And my parents just were a little bit late to that. For whatever reason, they didn't have their first child until 79. But so their friends had all these kids, and they were sort of they're like, wow, kids are freaky, because their son, one of their best friend's son, was telling them, could not read yet, but told them about how a mission he flew in a war, and he was like, he described something in such crazy detail, and they got him checked out by a psychiatrist. But then they looked up the story, and it was not something that a 6-year-old would have read or seen on TV. It was a very specific person, and it ended up being like World War II. So like the timeline would have checked out. Anyway, but like now it's like, yo, I'll just Google it. But like, that's wild.
You know what's crazy about what you're talking about too is there's thousands of documented cases of young children that have had experiences like that. Past lives, is what they like to call it, and where they would explain in vivid detail things that were validated later that the kids would have no exposure to. That's mind blowing. Just think about that. It's mind, like even the like deja vu. Like we said, we have deja vu all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I feel like I've been here, but I know I haven't. Well, have you? I mean, could it have been past life thing that's just kind of being brought to the surface? I mean,
is it the weed?
Really amazing.
I don't. Who's to say? Who's to say?
Most likely the weed, but still, it's something to think about. Like thousands of documented cases. It's just wild to me. So wild.
Yeah. God, that's yeah. It's so when your son says, "Yeah," are you like, what, is there like a site you go to? Like,
yeah. Well, so. Luckily, I knew of all this stuff because of investigating before, but there's sites like deadinhouse.com that you can go to, and you can find out if people have died in your location. Like if
I gotta go there right now, Shane Pittman.
Deadinhouse.com. There's also newspapers.com where you can pull up old articles and stuff. So we would try to research a little bit, and find out, but nothing ever came up with that. But of course, we try to look it up and see if there's any validity. But again, there was nothing of substance. But like anybody who wants to know if you're having some weird stuff happening in your house, you feel like somebody had died there, go to deadinhouse.com and you could type in your location and see if somebody actually died in that house. So sweet dreams, everybody. Yeah.
Look at Shane bringing all the joy and rainbows to the show tonight. We have had some questions. We had somebody ask, has a ghost ever possessed you?
No. Now I will tell you. So when I was filming Holzer Files, season 1, I went to this place called the Howard Dickinson House in Henderson, Texas. And of course, they put me in the creepy ass basement, thanks to Dave. Dave loves to do that. Yeah. But he sent me to the basement, and I was there. And after a while, I started getting like a splitting headache, and started having some emotions that were not my own. Like I was wanting to hit Dave, which now I know, that could be a
that's a form of possession. Yeah.
No, I
have also succumbed to that spirit.
Yeah. But also, by the way, that was actually your own feeling. I can confirm.
You're right. Yeah. Right. Probably now it was probably mine. It was probably like I was foreseeing what he would do to me later on, and it was just one of those things. But I just. I was wanting to hurt. I knew it wasn't my feelings, is what I'm getting at. So, no, I don't think I was possessed, but I do remember that experience as being something I will never want to experience again.
How long were you in the space? Like, how long were you there before you started to feel that way?
Shit, probably 5 hours, maybe. Because of course we're sitting in there, and then at one point, like they said, I was walking around the house, and they said I stood in the doorway, and I saw it on the show. Y'all got to go check it out on Holzer Files if you haven't seen it. It's on the first season, Howard Dickinson House. But they say I see myself appear in the doorway, and like Dave is there sitting there, and I'm just staring at him. And he didn't even know that I was staring at him, but I don't remember any of that. Like that whole moment in time, I have no recollection of it all.
Yeah.
So that's something that I never want to happen again. Do I believe I was possessed? No. But do I believe I was taking on emotions of somebody that wasn't me? Yeah. And that's the closest I ever got to anything like that, and I never want that.
But never again. Nowhere else. Anything that has like that happened?
No, nothing that I can think of substance. Like I would feel like overwhelming emotion and stuff, but I could still control it. It was just like one of those things where you can pick up and sense the sadness in a place or something like that. But yeah, that was the one experience I never want to have again, if I can help it.
Or we had another. I got to hang out with Shane in Atlanta. What an amazing guy, an awesome investigator. We talked about abilities and my fear of my own. I'm wondering how he's doing with his.
It's something. So if you haven't watched 28 Days Haunted on Netflix, shameless plug.
Shameless.
Go check it out. Go check it out, and you'll see what I'm talking about with all that.
But look at you. That's a good shot, by the way. You look good, Shane.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm storing up those ghosts in the cheeks now, though. I need to work on that. But
by the way, before you answer this, I was going to say, Joey B Comedy at some point also, he sort of said something in relation to this. Mm-hmm. How have your abilities changed since the show when you said they opened up? So
yeah, so even after the show, and like I said, go check it out so you'll know what I'm talking about a little bit more. I'm not going to give too much away, but after the show, I was having dreams. There was somebody that was close to the production aspect and had a vision out of the blue, or like a dream type thing, where this person's father came to my bedside and told me to relay a message. Come to find out, the father had passed, and I had no clue, like a week prior. Yeah, it's mind-blowing stuff. So
did the message make sense to the guy?
Yeah. And so the thing is how am I dealing with it? I'm still processing it. I'm leaning on people that I know say they have the gift and say that they've been operating in it for quite some time, to try to learn as much as I can. But it's one of those things where it's new and it's frightening. And if anybody knows me, I'm a jumpy, scaredy cat of a guy anyway when it comes to stuff like that. So whenever I have these types of experiences, it's one of those things that's hard to process, and it's just one of those things that I'm just trying to actively work through as I go along. Now, if I can use it in any capacity for what I do in the future, then absolutely I will do it. But it's still something that's very scary and very new to me.
God,
hey, Brandy.
Hey, Brandy. So Brandy Miller, she's on 28 Days Haunted too, and she's on another team. She did a phenomenal job. In fact, the entire cast of the show, I tip my hat to them. We got Amy Parks, Ray Causey.
I love Amy.
Brandy, Amy's awesome. Brandy Miller, Jeremy Leonard. We got Nick Simons, Aaron Thompson, and Sean Austin. All of them have been phenomenal. Of course, I can't leave out Tony Spera and Aaron Sagers. Everybody involved in it has just done a phenomenal job. My team, Amy and Ray, have, if it weren't for them, I would not have been able to complete the 28 days and stay in a location for that long. They really pushed me in a lot of ways. They really helped me, and they lifted me up whenever I was at some low points and missing my family. So just shout out to all those guys. They're amazing, and I love it, each and every one of them. So
I gotta say, what was one question I have for you is what was scarier, the 28 days in or going home to your wife, who you had left alone with 4 children after 28 days?
I think going home to my wife, because you know what, I gotta thank my wife too, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this.
Yes.
She was a trooper and held down the fort while I was away, and it was one of those things where I didn't find out till after the show, but I found out that my oldest son had COVID while I was in the 28 day cycle type thing. And so she had a choice to make. Was she going to contact the producers to get a hold of me? Because we didn't have our cell phones or anything like that. We had no communication with the outside at all.
Sounds like a
And
dream come true.
yeah. Well, for the
Except for-
social media aspect, because whenever you don't have social media, that is so freeing because oh my gosh, it could be a handful. But she, my wife was, she made a decision not to contact me, because she knew that if she contacted me, I would have quit and I would have come home.
I know, but what would you have done anyway? I mean, what would you?
Well, it was the point of, like, as a father, I want to fix things and I want to be there to help. So it's one of those things. I say we give their turn. Hey,
that's right.
Yeah, it is their turn.
Narcolepsy. That's how you end up being haunted. That's a dangerous thing to say with Shane Pittman.
He was joking. He was joking. He was joking.
Right. But it's one of those things where she made a decision. She knew how I would have reacted, and she sacrificed a lot just to make it to where I would be able to continue and do what I love to do. So I love her for that, and she was really a rock during that time as well. So
dude, it's amazing. You are amazing, but so is she. Because I'll tell you what, like,
she is.
I'm facing like 6 days without my husband coming up, and I'm like, wow.
I mean, a couple of days away from the kids would be great, but I start missing them right away.
Oh my God, Jason missed his wife.
I'm just gonna kick her out. I'm not listening to it. I know what she's gonna do, and I'm not dealing with it today. I know she's gonna talk about Disney World or Disneyland. Kate, if you can behave, you can go.
I wasn't gonna talk about Disneyland and how you cried about your wife.
Okay, and now she's back. No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not doing it.
But no, honestly, it's after 7 days, all of us in the house where we were at wanted to just hang it up, because it's one thing to be away from your family. It's another thing not to be able to call them, not be able to see how they're doing. You don't know if they're okay or not. You give them an emergency contact number to contact the producers and everything. But again, you don't know if something will happen to where they're unable to do that. Yeah. So you're constantly just thinking of the worst case scenario. So that's what a lot of people don't know about the show too, is like people see the drama and the tension of the show, but they don't know what we were all internally dealing with. We were hitting brick walls all the time. We're just like emotionally, physically, and spiritually just drained. So people judge based off of little snippets that they see on the show, but it was one of those things where it was something all of us went through. It was one of these things where we were really agitated at times and just kind of missing our family and just wanting to go home. And so it was a lot of that we had to internalize. So
he wrote, how does it work for you, Shane? Can you communicate with societies, or is it more visions?
Well, how it's been for me right now is it's been visions, like, or dreams. Like I will have it, and then because I know even on the show, and again you can watch it later, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But I had some visions and some dreams that ended up being validated. Stuff that happened in the house that, again, with this show, we had no prior knowledge of where we were going. We knew the city and the state, but we didn't know the location. And people said, well, these places are well known and y'all are paranormal investigators for years. Why didn't you know the location? Well, we don't know every single haunted location throughout the world. So like, it was new to me. I had no clue about the Lumber Baron Inn, which is where we stayed, and it was in Denver. I had no clue of that place until I was there. Until afterwards, I didn't even know the full extent of the history or the story. So that was amazing, having visions like that, having dreams like that were validated, and they were to a T validated, not just like some snippets of stuff. I'm talking about in extreme detail. So you talk about mind blowing. That's something that I'm reeling from even a year later, is like, how in the hell did that happen? Like, how does this happen? And so whenever people ask me, does the 28-day cycle that Ed and Lorraine theorized about, is it legitimate? I believe it is, because there's no way otherwise that I would have had information like that, or my team would have gotten the information that we gotten, you know.
And I mean, something to play off of what you said earlier, you were talking about how no social media. Do you think there's also, we, myself included, like sort of fill our brains and our time with this doom scrolling, you know, and like we're missing, not only are we missing what's like, we're missing what's actually happening around us, but we're also maybe missing, I don't know, like there's a part of me that thinks like if you had social media during those 28 days, it might not have been as powerful of an experience, because part of what opens you up to stuff is, I think, deprivation, maybe.
I can see that. Yeah.
You know, you bring up an excellent point. I really feel like being cut off from all of that is important. If you think about it, and if you look on your phone, even just your screen time, and you don't realize that you're on it as much as you actually are, how much time could that have been used doing something else that maybe could have been more beneficial? Or how much during that time did we miss out on, like you're talking about, Kate, with what's going on around us? Maybe we're so desensitized to maybe our true potential or our true gifts that we have, because we're all being bogged down with all of this stuff to distract us. I mean, it's a very good point. And I think that has a lot to do with the 28-day cycle and what that's all about too. So, yeah.
And obviously, and when Ed and Lorraine theorized on this, they weren't like, their part of their plan wasn't like get rid of social media, because it wasn't a thing. I mean,
no, it wasn't a thing.
It wasn't a thing then. But I don't know.
You know, they were onto something, and they truly believed that it took an extensive amount of time in order to get results and kind of pierce the veil to the other side. And they were absolutely right. I mean, it kind of changes the whole scope of like paranormal investigating now. That's why it's so cool that I'm able to be a part of a show like this, 28 Days Haunted, is now we kind of changed up the whole paranormal investigating thing. Now we kind of turned it on its head, because now we're showing, okay, you need more than just a couple of days to really get the answers of what's going on in the location. And you don't even have to have all of the research material, but you do have to have time. You have to have time to immerse yourself in the location, in the experience, to get a true grip on what's going on there, you know.
Now, how long were you at for an average amount of time? How long were you at a place when you did like the Holzer Files?
So we would be at locations about 5 days, 5 or 6 days. But then again, we would go, like, we would have breaks, so we would investigate the places, but we wouldn't normally stay in those locations, except for Queen Mary. We were there. We stayed overnight at Queen Mary. Yeah. But typically we would do our investigating, our interviews and all of that, and then we would go to our hotels, and then we'd pick back up the next day. So it was a completely different investigative style that we did. So the 28 days thing is completely new. Like we didn't even get to go to a restaurant down the street. We had our grocery, like they had a walkie-talkie that we would say what we needed, and it would be dropped at the front door. We would have no contact.
Like Survivor.
Yeah, we would have no contact with the PAs, nobody, so we couldn't even ask them, hey, what's going on in the world? Is there anything new in the news? Like the whole Gabby Petito thing, all that stuff went down while we were in the location. We had no clue what had happened with the poor Gabby and all of the stuff that happened there. Had no clue until after we had left the location and we found out all this stuff that was going on in the world. So, yeah.
What was that like coming back out to? Because like you missed a month of the world.
Well, for a little bit. It's
in the pandemic.
It's strange to talk about, because people say, well, 28 days is not that long. But whenever you're walking back out into the real world, per se, like you feel like an alien. Like you're like, okay, number one, I haven't been communicating with anybody except for the people in this house. So how do I communicate? How do I get on social media and do stuff again? Like it was like you had to relearn how to do stuff, because it was just so weird. Because here's how our day was, right? We would wake up and they taught us how to mic ourselves. So we would have to, there were cameras everywhere, bedroom, everywhere. I mean, like there's probably some behind the scenes footage that nobody wants to see. Like, yeah. So like, just like, you're in your own room and you're just like free, and like, it's just weird. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you would get up, you would mic yourself, and you would go, and I would go and eat some breakfast in the kitchen, whatever, and go sit out on a swing, which was in the backyard. Thank God we had some sort of a backyard. So me and Ray would sit out on a swing and just talk and BS for a little while. Then we'd go eat lunch. Then we'd investigate for, God knows how long. Then we would go to our rooms, go to sleep, or we would go and read a book because we had no TV or anything like that, and then go to sleep and repeat. It was the same stuff for 28 days.
Oh.
So it was a completely different experience. It's something I would do again, but it was the most difficult thing I believe I've ever done. But it was one of the most rewarding things I've done too. So
Now, did you ever meet Lorraine or Ed while they were alive?
No, I didn't. I wish I did. I know that whenever I was growing up and I was having things happening, it was before internet was kind of a big deal. It was with dial-up, and you heard that annoying ass sound. I would go to the library and try to get books, and there would be books from the Holzers and from Hans Holzer, from the Warrens, and I would try to soak up information about what was going on in my own life. But as far as meeting them personally, I was unfortunately not able to do so.
It's funny. So I'm sort of the I'm not going to say I'm a skeptic, but I sort of believe what's been in my own life. This is what I will say. At some point, before there was a microscope, we didn't know there were atoms. We didn't know there was bacteria. So just because I cannot see a thing does not mean it is not there. And like, I'm a big believer of that. I have personally not had experiences that I would describe as paranormal. And that is possibly because I am somewhat closed off, I guess, or, but I very much believe, like, when I see, I very much believe that people I don't know, that that you do paranormal experiences and that you have, and I don't know. So when you do come across a skeptic, or when you do, and first of all, who cares, right? Who cares what other people think? Because you know what's true to you. But how do you, like, what is the analogy you would give? Or like, if you're trying to make somebody understand, like, well, I've never been a woman, but I believe your experience as a woman, like, what's the way that you, like, talk to people who are like, this is all bull?
Well, I always tell them about a specific story that I had personally. Like, I had a family member, an uncle, that was highly skeptical of everything, even religion. Like, so he wasn't religious at all.
Yeah.
And he was 60.
Like him already.
he was 64 years old. He would always say, I've never had any of that shit happen to me, and blah blah blah. This is all crap. I had him contact me, or he actually contacted my dad, and he was 64 years old, had his first weird experience that he couldn't explain. He wasn't dreaming, but he saw somebody, like a woman, in his room, and it freaked him out so much. So whenever I talk to other people, it's like, I think that there are just moments in time where things align, and like it could be because I think time on the other side is a completely different thing than how we experience. It's man-made, to us, right? So we kind of make it based off of our experiences in science and what science tells us and how the stars align and all this stuff, is we kind of make time up that way. But I believe that whenever things kind of align, experiences could happen or it could never happen. I think the atmosphere has to be right in a person's life, and
Yeah.
there may be some that don't experience it. And then again, like we were talking about before, with how we're desensitized and we're always hyper focused on other things, or we're devoting our attention elsewhere. And it goes full circle again to what I say about intention. Well, if you're intending on never seeing anything because you think it's a bunch of crap,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, you may be closed off to the point to where it's one of those things you won't have that experience because, you're either not ready for it or you don't want it. And
Right.
I think the universe, it's woo woo, but the universe will give you what your intention is kind of focused on.
It does seem to
So
me too, like the word gift is pretty apt here. Like there are some people that can learn multiple languages. That ain't me.
right,
Like there's just like,
that ain't me either.
yeah, I just feel like, and so there is just maybe people that are more in tuned with that. Like not, because I'm sure you could also believe and like want something to happen and something may not happen just because you're
That's
not,
true too.
like you're
Well,
not,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
it's
right.
not your
I
gift.
get it. I get exactly what you're saying. But I think we all have that sense. Like we all have, I guess, the sixth sense or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I think we do have that. I think that some of us have built it up and built that muscle up more than other people have, and,
Right.
some people have not even truly discovered it in their own lives at all. So, and that could be what's playing a part in all of it. And again, like I said, that the conditions in the atmosphere just may not be right. It could be one of those things where it's the right place, right time scenarios, and some people will experience and some people won't.
It's funny. I think about I think a lot of times, like as somebody who's tried her hand at comedy, I feel like the worst thing I could hear anybody say to me is, "Oh, you're a comedian? Tell me a joke." It's the worst thing that, and like I should
Yeah.
not, that should not be something that, but it's just like and so I feel like a lot of times what happens with people that investigate paranormal activities is people are like, "Oh, you're psychic? Okay, what I have for dinner then?" Like, and it's like it becomes like, "Okay, show pony, do your trick."
Yeah.
That does happen a lot.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like that is tough because even LeBron James misses a shot, right? Like even like there's nobody that can always do their thing at anyone's beck and call. So
Yeah,
I feel like, yeah,
and you got to be sensitive to all of this too, because there's a lot of people that say that they are psychic mediums, or they're sensitives, or they're mediums in any capacity. And there's a lot of people that say it, and there's a lot of people that do not have the gift. They
Yeah.
say it. It's a lot of lip service, but it's not
yeah,
truth. So I believe what happens is you get a lot of those, and people having experiences with those people, that it kind of skews the realness of the situation of what's going on. It skews the real gifts that people are having that could help that person. And they're skewed by it because they've dealt with so much of the stuff that wasn't absolutely, necessarily real.
yeah,
And that goes with anything. Like you have people that are legitimate in what they do in different professions. You have people that call themselves comics that are not comics, and like they feel like they are. No, that's
no,
not,
Jason,
no. But you know what I mean. You have people that say that they are some
a
things,
thing, yeah,
and they truly believe it, but it doesn't mean that they are, and it doesn't
right,
mean that they're good at it too. So I think when people, it's same with the paranormal genre, right? There's a lot of people that call themselves investigators that they're more thrill seekers. They want, they just want the thrill and the adrenaline rush, and they don't have the research aspect down. They're not looking at it as something that they want to do long term. They just look at the can I get an adrenaline rush out of an experience? Can I get scared at this place? You know?
Yeah. You're like, check out a Six Flags.
Yeah, for real. That's one of those things. It's just, I think that people get skewed by a lot of the faults that sometimes it's hard to take a hold of the real that's going on. So
I think the other thing that sort of can make people skeptical is like that unlike the show, I think the reason why this show that you're right now is so successful is because it is 28 full days, and so you don't have to fabricate anything. Nothing is like,
right.
it just seems like you've given enough time to breathe. So then I feel like what happens though, like on a Ghost Hunters episode, when I'm like in a hotel, I'm like, oh, Ghost Hunters is on. And I'm like, they're going to this place for one day and 7 things happen. What are the odds? It just seems to me like, I'm like, well, this feels disingenuous, because like
Right.
what I would love to see is like them being like, found nothing.
Well,
Like,
and you know, to give them credit, they have done
that. Okay.
Ghost Hunters has done that. Ghost Hunters has done that in the beginning. When they were just starting out, they would have cases where they're like, well, we were here and nothing happened. So yeah, it has happened, but I get what you're saying with all that. And again, like a lot of people really love the 28 Days Haunted, the whole show and the concept, but there's a lot of people that say, oh, this is crap. This is all of this, which, to be honest with you, I really respect them too, because, you know, I even myself, I don't want to take anything for face value. So when people are coming at us with a skeptical mindset and they're thinking, well, how could this be? I do want them to question, and I really appreciate even the ones that are really skeptical of watching the show. I really appreciate them even taking the time to watch the episodes, for one, because that takes a lot, especially when you're not really believing in something.
Yes.
But you're still taking the time to say, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot anyway. And so for all of those people that are not believers and they're watching 28 Days Haunted, thank you. If you're listening to this right now, thank you so much. Your viewpoint matters just as much as anybody else, and we really appreciate every single person that watches. I mean, it's because of every single person that is watching. It's because of them that we're successful. It's because of them that we're able to continue doing what we love. So even if you're a skeptic and you don't believe any of this stuff, thank you for, taking time out of your schedules to even give us a shot. I appreciate that.
And I think a lot of people also, like, they don't, especially with some of the early paranormal shows that, like, in like late 90s, early 2000s, those shows were made by production companies that had never done anything of the sort. So they went into it like they did every other show, and that there had to be a story. There had to be, beginning, middle, end. And that was the case that, that I found with Extreme Paranormal, was that, that was how they went into it. And we had, conversations with them all the time. Like, that's not really how this works. And they grew a lot. I mean, watching that production company move on to other shows, you saw that they learned from doing them and their shows got better. But early on, they were very much, it was a show made for entertainment. They were there to get the big scare. And, I saw producers do things on camera or off camera that I was like, that was not genuine. And so, like, it was weird for me because I had never been in that place before.
Right. No, you bring up a very good point. And another really cool thing about 28 Days Haunted is we didn't have a camera crew. Like, we had robotic cameras set up in the house. So we didn't have any production in our house. So, like, even my skeptical mind, like, did that shit really happen just now? I knew because it was our house. It was our home for a month. So we knew when doors were locked, we would lock them because we didn't want some crazy people in downtown Denver to walk up in the house and mess with us. So we knew when doors were locked. We knew when our home for that month was secure. And to have that stuff happen, that I think that's a difference with our show. Is like we didn't have camera crew, we didn't have producers in that house, and so
I mean, did you hear from them at all? Like, or did they just
yeah,
totally
well,
let you guys?
there'd be a walkie-talkie, I guess a long-range walkie-talkie. We'd hear a chirp on a walkie-talkie, and they'd be like, "Is there anybody there to pick up?" And of course, they're monitoring us from control room, so they see us walking to the. And sometimes they would talk through the walkie, say, "Hey guys, y'all need anything?" And since we were mic'd up, we mic'd ourselves, so we'd be like, "Yeah, we need. I need some more deodorant, or I need this, or whatever." We'd be like, "Okay, we'll send somebody in the morning before y'all wake up to put it at the front door. Y'all be looking for it."
Man, so you like literally were living the Truman Show for a little while there.
It was absolutely surreal. It was one of those things that once in a lifetime experience. It's never been done before on the scale. And Netflix is the first paranormal reality TV show ever that they've done. So they're branching out and doing something.
Right.
And that's another thing where I'm so thankful that people are watching. And the number 6 show in the world on Netflix is huge. Like I never in a million years would have thought that we, like, to date, I think, and this is before the new numbers, over 13 million hours watched. Our whole series is only a little over 3 hours.
That's crazy.
Oh God, these comments you're throwing out.
Yeah, I know they're really. It's hard to. So here's the somebody had said here, TI 425 had said to you, because of the news clipping you found in the basement, do you know if there has been any interest in revisiting the murder investigations? And I think Joey B had also wanted to know that.
So I hope they release some behind the scenes stuff, because we filmed in our location alone over 670 something hours, right? So our team, you probably got maybe an hour and a half, something like that. So there's so much stuff that didn't make the air just because of time restraints with how many episodes that we had. But we all sat down and wrote a letter to the district attorney that was going to be mailed out. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people have not seen yet. So I do hope that some things are revisited. I just can't say too much because I don't know what Netflix.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know what Netflix may have planned for in the future.
Yes.
But I can tell you that there was a lot of discussions about that, because of course, TV is entertainment, but what we experienced in those 28 days was absolutely real.
Was not entertaining at all.
Right. No. And it kind of pushed us to want to know more. Like we got pieces of a puzzle, and we want to see a full resolution. So hopefully with some steps and maybe some of the behind the scenes footage, we'll get a resolution to all of that.
Also, have you seen the show Alone? Because Narcolepsy 27 just just made the joke.
I freaking love Alone.
You basically, it's funny, you did Alone, but with spirits.
Right. But I didn't have to like hunt squirrel and
I know, but God.
I didn't have to.
You had to say on a walkie-talkie, I'd like some pizza rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I would like steak instead of pork chops today. Yeah. Can y'all make that happen? I love Alone. Alone is one of the best shows out there. And in fact, I think some of our producers on this show were actually producers on that show too.
Well, it feels very similar in the hands-off aspect of I'm guessing that it's the same for you as it was for Alone. The amount of hours that you needed to be recording yourself, like it was like a.
Oh, so we, a lot of people, they're like, okay, well, we saw 3.5 hours of a season. No, we filmed 24/7, 7 days a week. We investigated every single day. We did not have an off day.
Yep.
So unfortunately, like, again, due to time restraints, you don't get to see the full picture of all of the experiments and all of it. And why didn't you get to see all that? A lot of the experiments we did were not fruitful.
See,
So
this is what I love. I love that.
It was not fruitful. It didn't yield any results. So why would they put it in the show? They're
Right.
only going to show you things that we got validation on, things that were popping off and that were entertaining and that were relevant to the story, and to the case and to the location. So there were hours and hours of footage. I know Ray Causey, he was on my team. He did countless experiments. I mean, pushing himself to the limit. There was a tunnel at our location. I remember him doing this experiment called the Gonsfeld experiment, where it's basically a sensory deprivation. He was in that tunnel for hours by himself, trying to get communication with whatever we were trying to communicate with there. And that gets cut because we were there. He got the same information that we were getting. So they cut that footage because, it was pretty much the same info. So there's a lot of stuff that people were not able to see. And hopefully, like I said, there's the footage is still out there. Hopefully we can get some behind the scenes stuff, to where people can check that out and see the full scope of some of the stuff we experienced.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
What?
If you know
What?
something, don't say it. I don't want Netflix to get mad at you.
I'm not. I would absolutely do it again. Like I said, it was super difficult. But the rewards that I got out of it, as far as just even the dreams itself, like even if it was just the dreams alone that I experienced, to where it was real things that happened in the location that I had no prior knowledge of. If that can happen to me again in any aspect, that is validating for me, because sometimes you second guess yourself, like, okay, I've been doing this for years. I know that I've seen strange stuff, but is it what I think it is? Is it me communicating with something on the other side, or is it something altogether different? Am I crazy? But whenever you're getting vivid details of a story that you never have even heard of before, that is validated by the historian later on that it actually did happen in the house, that's something that validation goes above and beyond, and it makes everything that I do, like, even apart from the TV side, it makes it all worth it.
This is wild that Narcolepsy 27 just said this. I literally had this dream 2 nights ago. I always dream about abandoned amusement parks. I've been on at least 300 variations of the log ride. I was on a log ride the other night. And Narcolepsy 27, tell me if this doesn't happen for you. On the log ride, the tracks don't connect. So you go down and then you go up and you have hope to land on the next track. But I fell off the last time. Narcolepsy, just me.
Wow.
That sounds horrible.
It's always scary.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it was.
We had somebody ask if will there be a book in your future?
That's a very good question. I've been entertaining it right now. Like, I don't know. I can't say for sure, but the stuff that I experienced in the house, it's absolutely possible that I will do it.
Narcolepsy and I go to the same place. We both go to the Upside Down in our dreams because he said yes, all caps.
That's crazy.
And Joey wants to know. He wants to know about the deprivation chamber.
Yeah,
man.
so everybody got to see my chipmunk cheeks in action on that scene. But I will tell you. So, me being in that tank, it looks kind of wonky. You're just seeing the infrared, but during that whole experiment where I'm in this deprivation tank and I'm starting to, like, see things, see these visions, I was seeing tons of women and like young girls and stuff that had been killed, that had been, and they were all dispersed, like, in different locations, and I had an overwhelming sense they were not found, that they were still missing. And again, what the show doesn't show is later on at the end, there's validation of that there was a string of murders of young girls around the area. A lot of them are still missing persons. I had no freaking clue at the time. That's what I'm saying. Like, would I do it again? Hell yeah, I would. Just because that is such a validating thing for me. You know, I couldn't just make that up. That was one of the things where it's just, it happened. It was real. It was raw. So yeah,
Listen,
that whole
if
sensory
you're-
deprivation thing was crazy.
If your wife can have 4 children, because listen, childbirth is hard, but it ends up being validating. So you round the corner and you do it again. And then you forget until you're in labor how bad it is. And then
Yeah.
you're like, I'll never do this again. And then you get a
Right.
little distance from it. So all I'm saying is if she can have 4 kids, you can definitely do this again.
Right. Yeah, because she's a trooper. If she can do that, I can definitely go do this again.
I mean,
You're right.
you're borderline developing X-Men level powers here, Shane. I'm excited where this goes.
And it sounds, dude, it sounds ridiculous even when you're saying it like that. Like
I mean, really, for me, that seems ridiculous. This is where I live.
all I know is it's scary, dude. I mean, there's no other way to describe it other than it's scary, because then you're wondering, how is this information happening? Like, is it just like our other senses that we're just picking up of things that have happened, and we're just getting that download of information from somewhere? It may not be a spirit or anybody telling you anything. It could just be a download of information that you're picking up from somewhere. It's scary because there's a lot of unknowns to it, and you don't really know what you're dealing with. You're just learning as you go, and that's the hardest part. I think just the unknown in general can be really scary. And yeah, so it's something weird that I'm dealing with. Hopefully it'll be all right. I hope.
Narcolepsy says this, while I'm a skeptic, I have sometimes wondered if certain locations where bad things happen so intensely almost leave a scar of negative energy that remains rather than a spirit. Just my honest opinion, I think. Yeah.
Right. And that's a very good theory. And that's where the what we call residual hauntings come in, where it's kind of like just like even if you put your hand on a window and you take your hand away and that the fingerprints are all still there, the mark of that action, all of that is still there. The remnants of that is. So it's the same with, if something really traumatic happens or something high intensity happens, it could absolutely leave some sort of energetic, because energy can't be created or destroyed. It just transfers, right?
Right.
So it could be,
and that is science.
It's science. So it could be the energy just transferred there and it has nowhere else to go. It's just there and people pick up on it. So yeah, it's absolutely a good point.
So let me ask you then, with sort of going with that theory, current things that have been horrible, like, so I guess like the stuff that you're sort of uncovering in 28 Days Haunted, how long ago had those events taken place?
From what we gathered, it was in the 1970s.
Okay. So like,
it was it wasn't like an 1800 thing.
No, right.
It was fresh.
But I'm just wondering, what, assuming that energy gets absorbed, does not get created or destroyed, and I'm not trying to be a downer here, but a place like Columbine, like what would you recommend, like something where like this horrible thing has happened, that there's been nothing short of the worst horror these kids had ever done. I mean, and then name every single other school since then. But do you bulldoze the school? Like, real question. Like,
well, I don't think it's respectful to go and investigate situations like that. I think you got to be very selective in your approach, and especially if you're doing it from a research aspect, you've got to be very selective in your approach. I, for one, would never disrespect the families because it's still raw to them. It's still new. Like if they reached out to me on a personal level and there was some other things that I could help with, absolutely. But it would not be one of those things where I would go and actively seek that out.
So there is such a thing as too soon for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And you don't, and respect. Like, respect goes a long way. You have got to make sure that you're respectful to the living and the dead. Honestly, I mean, it's one of those things. Is if someone or something is wanting to communicate with you, they're gonna do it. That's what I believe anyway.
Do you remember a few years back, Shane, when there was that team of ghost hunters that was investigating at the 9/11 memorial, and it was causing all kinds of. It was a big thing within the community at the time, and people were flipping out, like the disrespect, and their argument was, we're going to get this evidence now, and it was a big thing back then.
Yeah, and I try to be sensitive to both sides, but if you just think about, you may get some evidence, you may get some things that's going on, but you're not just dealing with that evidence, you're dealing with thousands of people, you're dealing with families that are having to relive every single moment of tragedies. And is it in your best interest to open up that wound again? I don't think that we reserve that right to be able to do that. Like I said, if a family personally wants to come in and have questions and they want something personally, fine. But just going and trying to do something on that scale, I think is highly disrespectful. It's something that should never be done. And I think people need to really think about their actions before they actually do it,
Well, we have kept you long enough. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Man, it doesn't even feel the time went by so quick. You guys are absolutely amazing. I appreciate y'all.
Thanks, buddy.
You are such a riveting guest. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Riveting, I say.
Well, that's why we kept Dave off this episode, and also Jamie.
He would have knocked me all the way down quick. So.
He did the last time you were here. He did the same. Yeah. He was terrible.
Oh, I love Dave. He's a good guy.
He is.
He's good. He's paying me to say that too, by the way.
I also believe that. Shane, tell everybody where they can find you right now. I know we talked about it the whole episode, but where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me, just type in Shane Pittman on any of my social media. I'm at Starring Shane on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And officialshanepittman.com, you can keep up with all the stuff that I'm doing there as well. And please, if you haven't watched 28 Days Haunted, please give it a shot and just spread the word, tell your friends. I would greatly appreciate that. And thank you to everyone that's watched so far. I mean, number 6 in the world is...
It's gonna go up even higher.
When I first heard the title, I thought it was the sequel to the Sandra Bullock movie.
Okay.
Well, people are saying, man, I got gypped. I thought it was the 28 Days Later franchise, and I got this crappy paranormal show. so I have people in my comments all doing that too. But again, everybody that's checked it out, thank you so much. It's because of y'all that we have the success that we're having right now. So thank you.
Awesome.
It's also
Thanks for
really well done. No, I was just gonna say it's just really well done. It just
thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much, buddy. I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank y'all so much.
Take care, bud.
Good night.
Good night.
Isn't he fantastic?
He's the best.
Yeah, he's a solidly just a great guy.
Just also, and you're the same way. There's not a force feeding of this thing. It's like, I'm going to tell you the things that I experience. You can, I don't care what, I don't care what this happened. Okay, so back to parenting real quick. I have a friend whose daughter is having trouble with some friends. And she keeps telling her side of her story to her mom. And the mom finally said, do you mind if I just call the parents? And she goes, no, call them. Call. And I was like, that's how you know. That's how you know what she's telling you, because she's not scared, unless she's a sociopath. She's not scared of you uncovering because there's nothing to uncover. And I feel like that's that. Like, I feel like you guys are both like, okay, you can question it. I am not. I know what I experienced. There was a woman in my room, and my phone rang, and it was Warren's answering machine. Like
the Lutzes, but yeah.
Lutz, sorry, Lutz. You can believe or not. I know what happened. I'm not trying to convince you.
I also am one of the few people who've done paranormal television shows who will tell you that there was definitely shit that you saw on that screen that was not real. That the producers, and most people who've been on a TV show are like, nope, I will not touch, because I get it. I have no intention of ever going back down that rabbit hole. Like, I don't want to do paranormal. I'll work with the Newkirks if they want to do more projects, because I just really enjoy that. But I wouldn't do a mainstream paranormal show again, I don't think.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't.
I think you would be fantastic on one of those shows.
Trevor! It's so crazy to know Trevor now.
Isn't it?
It is. It's like
I got Trevored last night on a Monday night.
Are you serious?
So we went to shoot some stuff. So Trevor and I are having a Halloween bash in this weekend. And I went over to shoot some video for it to promo it, and we ended up listening to the audio version of our show from the weekend, and then he and I hit the whiskey, and then it was not good.
I love you, Trevor. You listened to the audio version of the show. How did that go? How was that?
It's so funny. Dude, you are a bullet train.
That's not good.
You do not miss a beat. I have very seldom seen people run at Kaler's level, and you do, without question.
Well, thank you. He's getting old. That's why I can do it.
I've only known him as old, so I don't know what he used to be like. So we are back Thursday night. Are you joining us for our special?
No, I don't know about it. No, I don't think
I literally sent out the information about this.
Where?
Greg and Dana Newkirk are going to be joining us Thursday night live. We are going to be talking about their Museum of the Occult and Paranormal. Are you going to join us?
I don't think I am going to join you. I've
Taylor's here for sure.
Yeah, I think we have my PTA exec board meeting. I'm one of the exec members.
Jennifer. How is Jennifer?
DePauli. Who are you talking about? The PTA president?
Yes.
DePauli, her name is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you just outed her on the show. Well, fantastic. Also, for those of you in northeastern Pennsylvania, I will be at Mansfield University tomorrow night. I will be talking about my experiences with traveling with George Lutz, who the Amityville Horror was based on. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experiences with a little haunted object called the Crone. And as well as my time on the new recently re-released on Hulu show Extreme Paranormal.
Dude, I got a lot in my queue right now. Do people still say queue? No, I guess not.
No,
remember that?
I do. Yes. I just kept getting discs of The Office sent back to my house.
Yeah. By the way, it's so funny. We were going through the Lego catalog. Is Cameron here? Maybe not. Anyway,
no.
I was gonna say because the Lego, Lego just know every toy company knows when to send those catalogs. Right, they're just starting to come. So the Christmas Lego catalog came, and there's an Office set now, and the Office set has a part of it is Kevin spilling the chili, and that happened to be an episode that Dickie's buddy wrote, and I was like, well, that's how you know you've made it. Not when you've written on The Office, but when you've written on The Office and Lego made your episode set.
Yes, I would agree with
it.
Yeah. Do you know on Peacock's terms of service, when you look at them, the recipe for Kevin's chili is actually in the terms of service?
No, it's not.
It really is.
I mean, I'm saying no, it's not. I believe you, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's super funny. Well, if for some reason you get a chance Thursday to sneak away and pop in for a little bit, by all means, join us. Greg and Dana will be here at our normal time of 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. Do you have anything else you want to say, Mrs. Mulligan?
No, thank you so much, Ms. Yeah, Mulligan. Mrs. is my mom. I'm a Ms.
You're Ms.?
I'm Ms. just because I didn't take Dickie's last name.
It took me a really long time to figure that out, by the way.
Oh, it's hilarious. People are always like, if people know me first, they'll be like, oh, Neil Mulligan. I'm like, my grandfather, Neil Mulligan? Oh, no, Neil Murphy. Got it. No, I was going to say thank you so much to everybody that came out. I wasn't here last week because it was Dickie's birthday. So it was the recap show after our live show. But thank you to everyone who trekked out to Sayre, Pennsylvania. Stephanie Hansen, her girlfriend Sarah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Was there.
Genevieve came
from Atlanta. I mean,
Katie Bem was there. Although she didn't. Did you meet Katie while you were there?
Katie didn't want to meet me.
Wow. Way to go, Katie.
So that's fun.
Anyway, we will be back next week with Well, we'll be here Thursday, and then I have no idea who Kaylor has booked for Tuesday. So
chances are Kaylor also doesn't know.
I think Mindy Kaling's the week after that.
Mindy Kaling?
Correct. Frau Farbissina.
That's not Mindy Kaling.
Oh, Mindy Sterling. My bad.
Oh my God. The way I panicked. I was like, are you serious? I'm actually going to meet Kelly Kapoor. Oh my God.
Oh, well, you know, Katie's now backtracking.
Oh, you need another beverage. Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, and if you were getting troubled, we all get it.
We get it.
Anyway, that's it for this week.
Thank
We
you,
will see you
guys.
next time on the Parents Lounge. Good night, everybody.